Hi guys, welcome to part 3 of the Arkanoid tutorial for Unity. In the first episode we looked at building the screen with the 4 walls, the block in the middle, the paddle and the ball. In part 2 we looked at controlling the paddle, being able to move that left and right, and we also looked at the ball and how to launch the ball from the paddle. In this video we'll be looking at how to customize the bounce on the paddle, how to destroy the block in the middle, and the last part is to make a death wall, the wall of death at the bottom, to destroy the ball if the ball touches the bottom of the screen. Okay, let's have a little think about what we're going to do. So when the ball bounces in the middle of this paddle, we want it to bounce straight back up again. If it hits the right hand side, we want it to bounce off at an angle like that. And if it hits the left hand side, we want it to bounce off at an angle something like that. And the way we do this is we get the relative position of the ball and minus the position of the paddle, and that will give us -1, or let's have a plus sign in there just for the sake of it, -1, +1, or 0 in the middle. So when it's 0 we'll move 0 on the X, when it's 1 we'll move 1 on the X, when it's -1 we'll move -1 on the X. Okay, cool, so that's what we're going to do with the custom bounce. Let's dive straight in. So I'm in my scripts folder here. If you're not in the scripts folder, go into the scripts folder, and we're going to create a new C# script, and we're going to call this custom bounce. This little arrow here allows us to edit the prefab. So we're going to drag, when my computer wakes up, wait a minute. So we're going to drag custom bounce onto the prefab, and then we're going to edit it. A paddle prefab that was, by the way. Okay, we're not doing start or update on this. We want to get the box collider. So at the top we'll have box collider 2D, BC2D, escape again so it doesn't auto-complete that for us. We want our awake function. Remember, this gets called before the start functions on the different game objects and will help us to avoid brace conditions when we make more complex games. So BC2D equals get component box collider 2D. Okay, this is a custom bounce behavior, so we want on collision enter 2D. And let's give ourselves some pseudocode. So the first thing we want to do is find the relative point, and that is ball minus paddle, or ball position. Let's call that ball.x minus paddle.x. I didn't mention this just now in the introduction, but we do also need to divide that by the paddle.width. So find the relative point, and then we want to change the velocity of the ball depending on the relative point. Okay, so let's think about how we're going to do this. We're going to find the relative point. So we need the ball X. So our other is the ball. Actually, we should make a check here. If other dot game object dot tag equals ball, we need to make sure we've set up the tags as well for this to work. So if other game object dot tag equals ball, then float relative position equals other dot transform dot x, other dot transform dot x minus transform, that's the paddle because it's this custom bounce class is on the paddle, transform dot x, we need that all in brackets, divided by, oh no, why did we get that box collider? BC, this is why, 2D, box collider dot bounds dot size dot x. So that will get us the width of the box collider. We've got a little squiggle. Transform does not contain a definition for x and no accessible extension method x. Yeah, position. Sorry about that. Other transform.position.x, transform position.x, and the box collider to get our relative position. Our comments have kind of found themselves in the wrong places, so let's get the comments back in the right place. Okay. Now we want to change the velocity of the ball depending on the relative point. So other dot rigid body dot velocity equals new vector 2 and what we want to do is we want to move straight up on the y-axis, so comma 1, and on the x-axis we want the relative position. And we want that to be normalized. So that gives us the unit vector, so we're then able to do multiplication, to multiply our vector, and we're going to multiply it by other dot rigid body dot velocity dot magnitude. So basically that's getting us the speed, and the speed should remain constant. When we've got our block set up, we might find a little bug with the way our speed's working, but I've got a little solution for that if that bug rears its head. But basically that magnitude should be whatever the speed is of the ball, so we're just using that rather than holding a reference to the ball and getting the ball speed that way. Cool. So that's our custom bounce done. Let's save it up. Let's go back into our Unity editor, let it catch up, save the changes to the prefab. I just want to click on the ball and make sure it's tagged as a ball. It's not, so we're going to add a tag. Ball. Save. The paddle's tagged as player. The block is untagged. Let's add a tag. Block. That will come in useful later. Let's grab that block again and tag that as block. Now I'm making changes here, but I'm making changes to the objects in the scene, not their prefabs. So if we go into overrides here, we can apply all to that block, go into this ball and apply all to the ball as well. Cool. Let's play and let's see what happens. So we can launch the ball, it bounces around. And that's not working. So let's go on to our paddle again. Now for some reason our paddle doesn't have the, it does have the custom bounce script. Let's have a look at the custom bounce again. So on collision, enter 2D, collision other, if other.gameObject tag equals ball. So let's put a debug point there. We haven't debugged on this project yet, so we want to create a launch.json file, and we want to choose the Unity debugger. Okay, if you don't have that, it's an extension called Debugger for Unity, which requires the C# extension as well. If you haven't set up these already, then check out the first video, Unity and Visual Studio Code, to find out how to install that and get it all working. Okay, now we're able to debug. Ball, for some reason, is still untagged. Haha, that's the problem. So we hit the wall. Yeah, we can get rid of that. We don't need that. The problem was the tag. Oh. It's hard to catch up with this ball. It's gone crazy. Well, just trust me that that's working, but there is something that isn't working, and it's on our ball. So we've got this float speed of 15F, but we just saw there we can get a bounce that gives us a speed of more than 15 and makes the game pretty much unplayable. So if we go to update, remember this is called every frame by Unity, and every frame we're just going to say that our rigid body 2D velocity equals the rigid body 2D dot velocity rigid body 2D dot velocity dot normalized. So we're taking the velocity, however fast it is, turning it into a unit vector, and then we're timesing that by speed. Okay, all my red squiggles have gone, so that's looking about right. The velocity normalized times speed, 15F. Okay, hopefully that will work. So let's save that up. Go back into here. is on the ball. Let's have a look at the overrides. To apply also, now we've got the ball tag on the prefab as well. That would have caused us some issues later when we create the balls with script. Okay, there it goes. Oh, I seem to have lost control. There we go. Yeah, when it hits that side, it's bouncing off in that direction. When it hits the middle, it's going up. When it hits that side, it's bouncing that way. So it's not realistic physics, and it can bounce off the edge as well. It can actually bounce off the bottom. Ugh. So it's not realistic physics in any way, but we've got the bounce working the way we want it. Great. Good. Great, so we've got our custom bounce working. Now it's time to make the block a little bit more interesting. Let's add a component to the block, and we're going to call this component health. New script, health. I have to move myself. Let's try again. Add component health, new script, create and add. And just remember to tidy up after ourselves, so into the assets folder. Let's get the health script, drag it into scripts. Don't know what happened there. I clicked on the play controller is what happened. We just want to go to the console and just clear that. See if it pops up again. Double click on health. If you're feeling adventurous, you might want to pause now and see if you can figure out how to make the block destroy itself when the ball bounces into it. You might want a serialized field to keep the health. You probably want an on collision, and you want an if statement to check that it's the ball that's colliding with the block. These are the kind of things you need. So if you like, pause the video, have a go at that. Otherwise, just follow along. Start off with a serialized field, and this is going to be an integer, and we're going to call this health. And it's going to equal 1. So these blocks, or all blocks that use this script, are going to default to 1 health, so they'll break the first time the ball hits them. We don't need a start method. We don't need an update method. We do need an on collision enter 2D. So we're just going to say if other.gameObject.tag equals ball. Health minus minus. Should be a space there, health minus minus. So that's basically shorthand of saying health equals health minus 1. So health minus minus, and then we want another if health is less than or equal to 0, then destroy. It's very tempting to write this, but that will destroy this component, which is the health script. We don't want to destroy the health script, we want to destroy the game objects, which is the block or whatever game object this health mono behavior is attached to. So let's have a look. We've got health equals 1. If we hit the ball, minus 1 of our health. If the health goes below 0 or hits 0, then we destroy the game object. Great. That's all we need for the health script. So that was nice and quick. Let's save that up. Okay, let's do our little test. So we'll hit play. We know roughly where the ball's going to go, so we should be able to hit that. And we've destroyed our first block. Fantastic. There we go, so that works. Next thing we want to do is we want to destroy the ball if the ball hits the bottom of the screen. So we need to go into our walls and our bottom wall, and we need to add a component. Let's move my head before I do this. I'm going to add a component, and we're going to call it Death Wall, or the Wall of Death. Create and add that script. Go into our assets folder, drag it into the scripts folder, open it up in Visual Studio Code with a double click. Okay. Now with the death wall, basically what we want to do is if the ball hits the death wall, then the ball should be destroyed. So you're going to need on collision 2D, and you're going to need to destroy the object that collides if it's the ball. So why don't you pause and take that as a challenge, and then when you're ready you can follow along with me. So on collision 2D, enter other. If other.gameObject.tag equals ball, then we want to destroy other, but remember it's the game object that we want to destroy. We don't want to destroy the collision 2D, we want to destroy the other game object. Okay, we'll save that. Jump back into Unity. Have a little test. So when it hits the bottom, it's gone, and unfortunately it's gone forever. So in the next video we'll look at how to reset the game, and we'll try to make this screen a little bit more interesting as well. We'll also cover prefabs in a bit more detail and make a more interesting level by adding some more blocks and configuring blocks to have different health, that kind of thing. Cool. See you in the next video.